the CIF Southern Section Ford 11-person football Division 7 championship bracket is the title. And first things first, I'm going to cover the matchups, and then I'll go into depth about the various schools competing in Division 7. So, first off, we'll start with Chino versus Jordan. Chino High School will be hosting Jordan High School. And a little bit about these programs. Chino's actually 10-0 this season. And they are they won the Sierra League. That league they play in only for football. And for Jordan High School, they're in the Moore League, and they're an at-large team. So Chino 10-0 on the season overall, and then Jordan 7-3 overall. And Chino has the home field advantage. For for all of these matchups, the first team that I'll mention for a certain matchup will be the host team. They're listed on top, and on the CIF website, they are given an asterisk next to their name, which indicates the home field advantage. So the second matchup is Mayfair High School versus Village Christian. Both teams 7-3 overall. Mayfair coming from the Gateway League, finishing third. And for Village Christian, they come from the Ironwood League for football only, and also third in that league. Now this next one is an interesting one. It is the Burroughs Bears of John Burroughs High School in Burbank, California, hosting Agora from the Canyon League. So for Burroughs, they're 9-1 overall, and they won the Pacific League. It's the Pacific League Upper, to be a little more specific about that. And Agora comes from the Canyon League for football only, as an at-large. A little bit more about that later on. Next matchup, it is the Diamond Ranch High School Panthers hosting the Muir Mustangs from John Muir High School in Pasadena, California. So Diamond Ranch 8-2 overall. They finished second as listed on the CIF website. I do have Diamond Ranch pulled up, and they tied for, well, technically the top three in the Valle Vista League is which is where the Panthers from Diamond Ranch High School come from. They tied for first, and it comes down to the tiebreaker being head to head. So listed on Max Preps, it's San Dimas, then Northview, and then Diamond Ranch. So Diamond Ranch listed third on Max Preps, but on CIF they're listed as the second place finisher from the Valle Vista League. And the Muir Mustangs finishing second in the Pacific League Upper. Their record is 7-3 overall, not 5-3, which is listed on the CIF site. And that game is going to be played in Pomona, California. The next matchup is Martin Luther King High School facing Lakewood High. MLK finished 6-4 overall from the Big West South League for football only at the number 3 seed, or the number 3 finisher from the league. And Lakewood comes from the Moore League, finishing third. Their record overall is 5-5. It's Martin Luther King High School with the home field in that matchup. The next matchup is Granite Hills High School hosting Salesian High. Granite Hills finished 8-2 overall. They won the Desert Sky League, and Salesian at 9-1 overall won the Camino Real League. Second to last matchup is Bishop Diego hosting Redondo Union. Bishop Diego finished 4-6 overall, coming from the Marmonte League at number 3. And Redondo Union 6-4 overall from the Bay League as an at-large. Last matchup, Laguna Beach hosting El Dorado. Laguna Beach coming from the Pac-4 League for football only. They won that league. Their record overall is 9-1. El Dorado finished 5-5 overall, and they finished second in the North Hills League. All right, with that said, let's dive into in depth more about these matchups and where these teams finished last year as well, to give you a correlation of how that program is trending. For example, the Muir Mustangs and Salesian Mustangs faced off against each other in the Division 10 championship last year. A game in which the Muir Mustangs won on that historic run from, at the time, first year head coach Lance Mitchell. All right, Chino and Jordan. All right, here we go. Chino and Jordan. Let's start with the Jordan High School Panthers from Long Beach, California. So once again, their record overall is 7-3. They finished 3-3 in the Moore League, and that was good enough for fourth. So for some of these leagues, it depends in terms of, I can't remember what it is, but it's something about like the strength of schedule or something like that. And that's why you see like 4 teams from some leagues and 3 teams from others. But it usually ranges somewhere between 2 to 4 teams per league that end up making the playoffs. All right, for Jordan, they're coming off a loss at home against Long Beach Poly. The final score of that game was, it was played actually last Thursday, the 26th. Long Beach Poly got the win 56-14. So Jordan High on they're gonna have to bounce back from that loss last week against Chino. Once again, Chino's undefeated, and they're hailing from the Sierra League. They won the Sierra League, and in that league is Covina, Roland, and Pomona. So 4 teams from the Sierra League. And for Chino, they're coming off a win at home against Pomona High by a score of 42-21. So they doubled up Pomona. Let's see. In terms of last season for both of these programs, Chino was at 500. They're the Chino Cowboys, by the way. And they finished second in league last year to 2-1 record. Let's see, they did make playoffs last year. They lost in the second round to Bellflower by a final score of 35-21. Oops. Let's see what. It was Division 11 for Chino. They made the Division 11 playoffs and then bowed out in the second round to Bellflower. And then for Jordan High School, they did not make the playoffs last year. They finished at 6-4 overall, and finished fifth in their league with a record of 2-4. So their 4 losses overall came in league play. All right, the next matchup is Mayfair and Village Christian. I'll pull up both of those teams. All right, there we go. All right, who did I say had the home field? Mayfair had the home field. Okay. So starting off with the Village Christian Crusaders from Sun Valley, California. Once again, their overall record at 7-3. They finished third in the Ironwood League with a record of 3-2. And they're coming off a 45-12 win on the road at Valley Christian. And that game was played this past Friday, the 27th. What's that? There we go. All right, last year, the Crusaders did make the playoffs. They played in the Division 8 tournament, losing to Redondo Union by a score of 24-22. And last year they had a record of 8-3 overall, and they finished second in league at 4-1. Turning it over to Mayfair. Once again, their overall record 7-3 as well. They finished third in the Gateway League with a record of 3-2. They're coming off a home win against Norwalk by a final score of 49-28. And for those that know me for the Muir broadcasts, a game that the Mustangs played was against Norwalk at Norwalk, part of that historic playoff run, and that's where Norwalk, or that's where we're a teeny bit familiar with them. In terms of last season for the Mayfair Monsoons, and they're hailing from Lakewood, California, by the way. They also made playoffs last year. They went to the third round. Let's see, what division was this? This was Division 7. So back-to-back Division 7 entries for the Monsoons. They for their playoff run last year, it started at home against Glendora. They won that game in overtime by a score of 35-28. Then they went on the road at Claremont, pulling off a low-scoring win, 12-7, before losing in the third round of the playoffs to Golden Valley, the Golden Valley Grizzlies, by a final score of 33-28. So in terms of this second matchup, you have two teams that have been to the playoffs in their previous seasons, or in the previous season. All right, next matchup is Burroughs and Agora. Here we are. So starting off with the Agora Chargers. Once again, they finished 7-3 overall. They went 3-3 in the Canyon League, finishing fourth. Some teams in that league include Newberry Park, Moore Park, and Thousand Oaks. Those three teams finished 5-1 in league play, finishing above the Chargers. For the Chargers, they lost, or their most recent game was a loss at home to Moore Park by a final score of 55-28. Moore Park went 9-1 overall. In terms of last season for them, they did not make the playoffs. They finished 1-9 overall, so a huge bounce back for this program. After they went 0-6 in league, finishing at the very bottom of the table. With an away record as well of 0-5. Their one win of the season came at home, and it was against Nordoth, a team that went 0-10 last year. So a huge bounce back for the Agora Chargers in terms of making the playoffs. But now this is the Burroughs Bears from Burbank, California. The team that went on to win the Pacific League Upper. And the Division 2, the Pacific League, is only for football. It's Pacific Upper and Pacific Lower. Pacific Lower consists of Glendale and Hoover. In terms of all other sports, the Nitros and the Tornadoes of Glendale and Hoover High are added back to the Pacific League, making it whole again. So for the Burroughs Bears, they went 9-1 this season, finishing 5-0 in the Pacific League. Their most recent game was a win at home. Technically also the site where their crosstown rivals play their home games as well. But the final score for the Burroughs Bears over the Burbank Bulldogs was Burroughs 48, Burbank 13. And the Bulldogs went 3-7 overall. I believe last year the Bears also made the playoffs. Yes, they did. Unfortunately, they lost by a field goal to what is this, Takits High School? By a final score of 50-47. This was last year. From Hemet, California, are the Takits Titans, the team that knocked out the Bears last season. So the Bears returning to the playoffs. And for the Muir faithful out there, you'll remember the game that was played on Friday the 13th this season, in which the Bears won by 10, 35-25. And according to the bracket, a rematch is possible if, hypothetically speaking, Burroughs and Muir both win their first round matchups. You could see a potential Pacific League quarterfinal, but anything can happen from now to November 10th, which is the quarterfinal matchup. So all of these games, round one games, are to be played November 3rd. That's this upcoming Friday. All right. The next matchup, Diamond Ranch Panthers, Muir Mustangs. So the Muir Mustangs went 7-3 overall, finishing second in the Pacific League Upper with a record of 4-1. And they're coming off a big win at the Rose Bowl over the crosstown rival Pasadena Bulldogs. Final score of the 76th annual Turkey Tussle was 45-0 Muir Mustangs. And to put it as a note out there, when you look at the Mustangs, their last 3 games, the defense has come up big. Wait a second, hold on. Aha, I knew I did that. Okay. So I just caught myself, and when I say Friday the 13th game for the Muir Mustangs, that was against Burbank, and Burroughs played on the Thursday, that was the 12th for this season against Arcadia. But if you look at the head-to-head for the past 2 seasons between the Muir Mustangs and Burroughs Bears, talking again hypothetically about that Pacific League rematch, if both teams get the job done on November 3rd, Burroughs has won the last 2 at least. But back to what I was saying about the past 3 games for the Muir Mustangs, the defense has come up big, the special teams has come up big, and there are a couple of donuts on the board. 10-13 against Burbank, 41-0 Mustangs won that. October 20 against the Arcadia Apaches, 37-0 the Mustangs win. And then, of course, the tussle. So, with 3 straight wins for the Muir Mustang, following the loss to Burroughs on October 6th, the Mustangs have a lot of momentum going into the playoffs. Let's compare him to the Diamond Ranch Panthers. which will be the opponent. So once again, Diamond Ranch is 8-2 overall. They finished third in the Valle Vista League. Listed on Max Preps, they're listed as they finished second. But the top 3 teams in that league finished at 2-1 in league play. The Panthers are coming off a 36-28 win against Northview. So if you compare the Mustangs and Panthers, they both played against Northview. Different results. It was an early season game for the Muir Mustangs against what was it? The Northview Vikings, I believe they were called. Yeah, the Northview Vikings. The final score of that game, Northview took charge and won 41-6. And so Diamond Ranch finishing off the regular season with a 36-28 win against Northview. It was the first game jitters for both teams. If you look at the Mustangs and the Vikings, probably a lot more reps for the Vikings. There's still things in the system that were getting put together for the Muir Mustangs. So I guess it's hard to speculate where this game would finish up, but this will be the game that will be broadcasted this upcoming Friday. Right here on Game Mike with my colleague Justin Narvaez at the helm. The game will be played in Pomona, California, just off the 60 freeway. The home for the Diamond Ranch Panthers from Pomona, California. And to keep consistent, let's look at last year for both teams. So all right, I just got something. So Muir had a couple of transfer students that sat out in that first matchup against Northview. So it's a completely different Muir team from the home opener against the Vikings. So looking at the teams in terms of last season, the Panthers did not make the playoffs. They finished at 2-8 overall, so an inverse of what their record is this season. Actually, yeah, a complete inverse. They finished again third in league, and their record was 1-2. But their last game was against Los Altos, in terms of last season's campaign, which was a win, 27-9. So that was their league win. And of course, the Muir Mustangs went on the tear that they went on after losing the 75th Turkey Tussle. They were shut out 47-0. They come into the playoffs. They play against Tustin, win 28-21, and then the defense does wonders for the Mustangs. They shut out Norwalk 21-0, and then play against Baldwin Park, win that one 28-7, and shut out Salesian, who's also in this playoff bracket this season, and this was for the Division 10 championship, 21-0. And then the Mustangs made their run to the state championships, beating Palo Verde Valley from Blythe, California, by a final score of 33-7. And then there was the Mud Bath up in Houston, California, which unfortunately the Mustangs lost 9-6 to the Huskies. And was one of many causes for the change that now you see the championship games for all divisions for the CIF to be played at neutral sites for this season. All right, the next matchup we're diving into detail with is Martin Luther King High School against Lakewood High School. All right, here we go. See who's got the home field advantage. Okay. So starting off this next matchup, we'll talk about the Lakewood Lancers from Lakewood, California. Once again, their record is 5-5 overall, so they're an at 500 team, finishing 4-2 in the Moore League. With that was good enough for third. Their most recent game was this past Friday against Compton, a game the Lancers won 42-7. Looking at where they were last year, they also made the playoffs last year. See, they made the championship game of Division 8 of the CIF Southern section before they lost to the Northwood Timberwolves by a score of 35-14. In their playoff run last year, Lakewood faced off against Hemet, Redondo Union, and Rancho Verde with wins 28-10, 33-7, and 24-19. So the Lancers are making a return to the playoffs from last year and an upgrade of one division from last year. Going into D7 this year from D8. And their opponent is the King High School Wolves, ML King High School, from Riverside, California. Their overall record is 6-4, league record of 3-2, coming from the Big West Lower League, and they finished third in that league. Their most recent game was on the road at Murrieta Mesa, a game they lost 31-14. They finished at 500 last year at 6-6 overall. They finished fifth in league and made the playoffs. They got to, what was that, the second round? The second round of the Division 7 tournament last year. Their first round matchup was against Troy, a win of 40-21, and then they played Western High School and lost 26-14. So both Lakewood and King are returning to the playoffs. And it'll be King High School from Riverside that will be the host team for this first round matchup. Next up is Granite Hills and Salesian. From the Desert Sky. All right, let's see which one of these guys it is. It is not these guys. It is these guys from Apple Valley, California. All right, here we go. So it's Granite Hills hosting Salesian. So we'll start with Salesian. So Salesian finished 9-1 overall. They won the Camino Real League with a record of 6-0. Their most recent game was a 49-0 shutout victory of Bishop Montgomery on the road. For Salesian, they're returning to the playoffs after making the Division 10 tournament and playing up to the championship game in which they were shut out by the Muir Mustangs by a final score of 21-0. This was their campaign last year. They went through Sonora High School, Stony Hills High School, and Palmdale High with wins of 21-20 in round 1, 28-3 in round 2, and 42-7 in round 3. And once again, Salesian returning to the playoffs after their impressive campaign last year, in which they finished runner-up in the Southern Section Division 10 playoffs. Sliding over to Granite Hills, if you try to look them up on Max Preps, you'll run into 3 Granite Hills high schools. This is the one from Apple Valley, California. And their overall record is 8-2. They won the Desert Sky League with a record of 4-0. Their most recent game was on the road at Barstow, a game they won 52-35. They have home field advantage against Salesian on Friday. And looking at their campaign last year, they made the playoffs last year with a record of 6-5 overall, and they finished 4th in their league, the Desert Sky League, with that being 1-3. They lost to the La Quinta Blackhawks from La Quinta, California, a team that went to the 3rd round last year of... Come on. It's being a little bit slow. All right, there we go. Division 9. So for Granite Hills, they lost to La Quinta by a final score of 61-47. So a very much high scoring game, over 100 points, 108 total points between the two teams. All right, the next matchup is Bishop Diego hosting Redondo Union. Starting off with Redondo Union. They're 6-4 overall and finished 4th in the Bay League with a record of 2-3. Their most recent game was against Miracosta at Miracosta, and the Miracosta Mustangs won that game 21-14. Miracosta ended up finishing 3-7 overall. And Redondo Union is also returning to the playoffs after their campaign that saw them face off against Lakewood in Division 8. And Lakewood ended up winning that game 33-7 from last year's campaign. And once again, Redondo Union's returning to the playoffs. Now looking at the host team for this matchup, the Bishop Diego Cardinals from Santa Barbara finished 4-6 overall from the Mormonte League, and they finished third with a record of 3-2. For them, I believe they're also returning to the playoffs. Yes, they are. And they got to the third round of last year's campaign. They won their first round matchup against Vista Murrieta of the final score of 41-18. And then they played against Del Modena and won 31-21 before they lost to Upland. A low scoring game for a third round matchup. 17-7 Upland Scots won that game. Oh, Highlanders / Scots. Interesting. And this was part of Division 3. So an interesting turn of events. And last year, Bishop Diego finished 9-4 overall, and with the same league record of 3-2, finishing third. Next up, the final matchup for Division 7 in the opening round. It is Laguna Beach hosting El Dorado. It's this team. Yes, it is. There we go. All right. So our final opening round matchup for this year's Division 7 campaign consists of the El Dorado Golden Hawks and the Laguna Beach Breakers. Let's look at El Dorado since they're the visitors for the opening round matchup. They finished 5-5 overall with a league record of 2-1, good enough for second in the North Hills League. They played against Esperanza most recently this past Friday and won it on the road 31-7. Interestingly enough, they played against Chino this season and lost by only 1 point, 35-34. This was back in September 22nd. They hosted Chino. So it's just a home heartbreak for the Golden Hawks. Maybe looking for a bit of redemption if they meet Chino in the playoffs, the Chino Cowboys. El Dorado's coming from Placencia, California. In terms of where they were last year, they made the playoffs last year. After finishing 7-4 overall and 1-2 in the North Hills League, they finished third. See who's in this league. It was El Modena, Canyon, El Dorado, and Esperanza, the four teams that make up the North Hills League. And last year, the Golden Hawks made the Division 6 tournament, losing to the Culver City Centaurs by a final score of 35-24. Next up, the Laguna Beach Breakers, the team that will be hosting this first round matchup. They finished 9-1 overall, winning the Pac 4 league with a record of 3-0. There are obviously four teams in this league, and the other teams in the Pac 4 league are Westminster, Ocean View, and Godinez Fundamental. As something to note. For the Breakers, their most recent game was this past Friday against Westminster. They won that game on the road 42-7. And are on a 9-game win streak entering the playoffs, something also to note. They too actually played Chino. That was the opening week matchup, a game that went to overtime. The Cowboys hosted that one and snuck out a 27-26 win, once again in overtime. Since that game, the Breakers won their next 9 against Dana Hills, Northwood, Santa Ana, Lakeside, Charter Oak, Garden Grove for non-league matchups, and then won the league. Doesn't look like the North Hills League is, or I'm sorry, the North Hills League. The Pac 4 League is of significant strength, however. I see a 64-0 win, a 50-7 win, and then 42-7 this past week, all in favor of the Laguna Beach Breakers. But those are all the teams in this year's Division 7 tournament. Let's look at last year for Laguna Beach. They went 11-4 overall. They also won league last year. And they won their Southern Section division. And it was Division 9. They played against Diamond Bar in the Division 9 championship last year, won that game 36-28, and then faced off against Granada Hills Charter in the state Division 4A tournament and lost 56-55. Let's see where Granada Hills ended up going. They only went one round further. Which was the championship game against San Marin, the Mustangs. And the final score of that game for the Division 4A championship was 32-8 in favor of the NorCal team. So that is the bracket for Division 7. Now, here's a little preview for Friday, our broadcasted game of the Muir Mustangs at the Diamond Ranch Panthers as part of the Division 7 playoffs for the CIF Southern Section. Once again, you can scale the two teams in terms of their matchup against Northview. Although I would say that's kind of irrelevant since we have learned that there were a couple of players for the Muir Mustangs that had to sit out that game because they transferred. So, oh, what the? Hold on a second. I just noticed there's a score missing over here. Ooh, we're gonna have to go back in the history. We're gonna have to go back for this one. So okay, for those interested, what I'm looking at is the Max Preps schedule for the Muir Mustangs this season. I just noticed that the score against Banning is missing. Hold on. Actually, I might have this. So I can do somebody a favor and input the score. I did let's see. St. Margaret's. Aha! There we go. I found it. Okay, I'll input that real quick. Do I have any? What did I do for my? Oh, I did not. Okay. Oh, I know why. Okay, the baiting game I'm talking about took place at the end of August, August 31st. And I know why I don't have a breakdown for this game. And that sort of, well, that sort of, it does tie into my current, I guess you'd call it studenthood at the Arizona State University. That day was the opening game for the Sun Devils against Southern Utah. And so I went to that game. And that's why I do not have a game breakdown for this one. But I can tell you the Mustangs did win against Banning by a score of 20-15. I think that was, let's see, if I did this right. Yeah, this was one that that game against Banning was an interesting one actually. And I wrote this down for the next game for the Muir Mustangs, which was against St. Margaret's. Part of one of my keys to that game was, or One of the notes going into that game was the never give up mentality from the Muir Mustangs. And what I typed out for my pregame report for the St. Margaret's game was on the game's last drive, referring to the Banning game. Quarterback Brandon Valencia threads the needle to wide receiver Alex Miller, who takes the reception to the house, scoring the game winning touchdown with under 30 seconds to play. This drive followed a long Banning drive that was about 4 minutes or so that resulted in the Banning Pilots going up 15-14. All right, that says everything. Oh, okay. I see what happened here. Never mind, it is there. There's just an extra. There's an extra Banning game. Okay, there was. So if anybody's looking at the Max Preps page for this, there for the Muir Mustangs schedule, there are two games against a Banning school on August 31st. And it's actually yeah, there are two different Banning schools on here. So the actual school that the Muir Mustangs played against that week was Banning High School of Wilmington, California, by the Port of Long Beach, and not the Banning High School that's actually in Banning, California. Yeah, very weird. Very weird that there would be a Banning High School in Wilmington, California, and in terms of Banning being a town out by along the 10 in between San Bernardino and Palm Springs. Okay, that's what I'm seeing. So no need to worry about that. That was I thought I missed something, but I didn't. It was just something extra that shouldn't be there. But okay, going into the playoff game for this Friday, which is the start of November. That's November 3rd. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff in Pomona, with the Panthers hosting the Mustangs. And in terms of rankings between the two teams, let me close this one on Banning. The correct Banning High School, not the. And when I say the correct Banning High School, I mean the one by the Port of Long Beach that the Muir Mustangs actually played against. This Friday's matchup, an interesting matchup between Diamond Ranch and John Muir High School. In terms of their state and section rankings, just go back to it. Muir is ranked number 225 in the state, ranked number 108 in the southern section, and 107 in the Los Angeles metro area. Diamond Ranch is ranked number 201 in the state, number 98 in the southern section, and number 96 in the Los Angeles metro area for football. We're looking at somewhat. I mean, we're looking at a close matchup in terms of where the state rankings and the section rankings have these two programs. But looking at in terms of experience for these programs, in terms of who's played playoff games, I lean the playoff experience more on the Muir Mustangs, even though. Let's see. There we go. Oh, I had two roster pages open over here. Very funny. Even though you could argue that this Muir Mustangs team is on the younger side, some of the sophomores that are listed on this Mustangs team had reps in last year's playoff run, which include number 2 Sean Baker II and number 4 Zion McDonald for the Mustangs. Now, in terms of overall experience, that advantage does go to Diamond Ranch, but because they haven't played a playoff game, since let's see, hold on. I did that to the wrong tab. There we go. Let's see if they made playoffs the year before. No, they didn't. Okay. What about this weird one? No, they didn't. On 1920. There. So the last playoff game that Diamond Ranch has played was back in the 2019 season, the 1920 academic year, a game they lost to Etiwanda. But it was part of the Division 5 tournament in the southern section. So you look at this Diamond Ranch team, none of the players have that playoff experience, to say the least. Because yeah, the latest the playoff experience would have been the class of 2023, which was last year's graduating class, or the class that graduated this past May. But nevertheless, it should be an interesting matchup between the Panthers and the Mustangs. Once again, the kickoff for the game is expected at 7 p.m. on Friday. That is November 3rd, to kick off the Division 7 playoff in the CIF Southern section. So once again, a final rundown of the current bracket, which was released this morning from the CIF. And as a further note, the first team I will list for each matchup is the team that has been denoted the host school for these matchups. So going from top to bottom on the list, Chino hosting Jordan, Mayfair hosting Village Christian, Burroughs of Burbank hosting Agora, Diamond Ranch hosting Muir, ML King hosting Lakewood, Granite Hills hosting Salesian, Bishop Diego hosting Redondo Union, and Laguna Beach hosting El Dorado. That's the way the playoffs are looking for Division 7. In terms of other Pacific League teams that made the playoffs, the Crescenta Valley Falcons made the playoffs. They made Division 10 after finishing third in the Pacific League. And their first round matchup is against Kennedy High School on the road at Kennedy. I'm just looking at the other brackets to see if any other Pacific League teams made playoffs. It does not look like it. You know, it's Division 13. Here's 14. Nope. All right, there you go. And here's a quick run through of the other brackets, just to set the scene for playoffs. Starting with the lowest division, Division 14. All of their first round games will be played this Friday as well. Artesia hosting Temecula Prep. Santa Rosa Academy hosting Rancho Alamitos. Bell Gardens hosting La Puente. Ocean View hosting Bolsa Grande. Hawthorne hosts Anaheim. Bishop Montgomery hosts El Monte. Linwood hosts Webb. Whittier Christian hosts Duarte. Those are the first round matchups for Division 14. Division 13, San Gabriel hosting Los Amigos. Walnut hosting Silver Valley. Grace High School hosting A.B. Miller. Bloomington hosts San Bernardino. Santa Monica Prep hosting Santa Ana Valley. Montclair hosting Gary High School. That's, if memory serves me right, that's also in the Pomona area. I happened to, when I was looking for Diamond Ranch to get an idea of the lay of the land over there, and the first high school I ended up finding was, I believe, Gary High School. Yeah, Gary Senior High School. There we go. And just about in the heart of Pomona, where it says Pomona on the maps. Estancia hosts Baldwin Park. So that's where the Baldwin Park Braves end up under first year head coach over there. I believe it's Maxi, the former head coach of the Pasadena Bulldogs, or on the coaching staff for the Pasadena Bulldogs. And then the final matchup for Division 13 is Desert Hot Springs hosting Arupa Valley. Sliding over to Division 12. And so far, all these matchups are to be played on Friday. So 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, Division 5, Division 4, Division 3, and Division 2. They all have their first round matchups on Friday, November 3rd. So Division 12, Coachella Valley hosts South El Monte. Santa Paula hosts Don Lugo. Victor Valley hosts Western Christian. Fillmore hosts Cerritos. Arrowhead Christian hosts Arroyo. Santa Fe hosts Rim of the World. Buena Park hosts Arroyo Valley. And Yucca Valley hosts Wilson of HH. That is, I just want to clarify which Wilson High School this is. Oh gosh, it's gonna come up with all the different Wilson High Schools. That is not a mule. Okay. So it's not that one. Is it this one? Yes, it is. Wilson High School of Hacienda Heights. That's what the HH is. Okay. Division 11 now. Quartz Hill hosting Gar. Linfield Christian hosting Hillcrest. Ramona hosting San Gorgonio. Palmdale hosting Bellflower. Esperanza hosting Pauley of Riverside. Los Altos hosting Patriot. Cantwell Sacred Heart hosting Maranatha. And Sure hosting Westminster. Taking it up to Division 10, Torrance hosts Segerstrom. San Marino hosts Redlands. Hemet hosts Rancho Christian. Elsinore hosts Brea Olinda. Capital Valley Christian hosts Beckman. West Covina hosts Paloma Valley. La Quinta hosts Xavier Prep. And then Kennedy hosting Crescenta Valley. Division 9, Rio Hondo Prep hosting St. Margaret's. Diamond Bar hosting Orange. Vista del Lago hosting Marina. Rancho Mirage hosting Sonora. Santa Monica hosting Santa Ana. Troy hosting Monrovia. Dominguez hosting Kaiser. And Los Osos hosting South Pasadena. Division 8, the Brentwood School hosting Fountain Valley. Highland hosting San Dimas. North Torrance hosting Charter Oak, not Arc. Summit hosting Covina. Barstow hosting St. Pius X of Downey. St. Anthony hosting Tockets. Aliso Niguel hosting Lawndale. And Irvine hosting Harupa Hills. Skipping Division 7, because that's what I just went over, we head to Division 6, Ontario Christian hosting Dana Hills. Huntington Beach hosting Glendora. Hart High School in Valencia hosting Crean Lutheran. Rancho Verde hosting Simi Valley. Murrieta Mesa hosting Laguna Hills. La Habra hosting West Ranch. Yucaipa hosting Miracosta. And Cypress hosting Rio Mesa. Taking it up to Division 5, Newberry Park hosts Ventura. Foothill hosts Aquinas. Bonita hosting Northview. So that's where Northview finds themselves, if you're curious. That's Division 5. Thousand Oaks hosting El Modena. Hesperia hosting Apple Valley. That should be interesting. Colony hosting Western. Liberty hosting San Jacinto. And Orange Vista hosting Eisenhower. Can you have one more to Division 4? Loyola Cubs hosting Norte Vista from Riverside. Yorba Linda hosting Moore Park. St. Paul hosting Santa Barbara. Corona Del Mar hosting Paraclete. Ayala hosting Culver City. Capistrano Valley hosting Downey. Newport Harbor hosting Trabuco Hills. And then Lucerna hosting Great Oak. Kicking it up one more, this is Division 3. San Juan Hills hosts St. Francis. Luzinger hosting Citrus Valley. Pacifica of Oxnard hosting Cajon. Etowanda hosting St. Bonaventure. Oak Hills hosting Beaumont. Tustin hosting Warren. Villa Park hosting Milliken. And Chaminade hosting Inglewood. Kicking it up one more, this is Division 2. Rancho Cucamonga hosting Edison. Murrieta Valley hosting Damien. Oaks Christian hosting Chaparral. Mission Viejo hosting Palos Verdes. Sarah hosting apparently the number one team from the SGV, San Gabriel Valley, and Bishop Amat. Bishop Amat 4-6 overall, by the way, below 500. Los Alamitos hosting Upland. Servite hosting Valencia. And Poly of Long Beach, that's Long Beach Poly, hosting Vista Murrieta. Finally, this brings us to Division 1, which their round 1 games will be played not this week, but next week. the week of November 10th. It's St. John Bosco and San Clemente, Corona Centennial hosting Orange Lutheran, Sierra Canyon hosting Santa Margarita, and then Mater Dei hosting J. Sarah. And that is your look at the CIF Southern Section Ford 11-person football divisional playoff brackets for the 23-24 academic year. Once again, our game will be on Friday, November 3rd, this upcoming Friday, 7 p.m. expected kickoff. Maybe 6:30 or 6:45 pregame show. Myself and Joseph Narvaez from Pomona, California for the game between Diamond Ranch Panthers and Muir Mustangs. The opener for the Division 7 playoffs in the CIF Southern section. It should be an interesting one as both teams coming off wins of their own last week. The Mustangs having one more day of rest or practice, however you see it. With the oddball game being played on Wednesday, the reason for that is the Rose Bowl scheduling for the Turkey Tussle, and once again credit to the Rose Bowl for hosting the big rivalry game between Pasadena High School and John Muir High School. It's just a fitting venue for the Turkey Tussle and its rich history. And that was the only game in the CIF Southern section for Wednesday, October 25th. And then, of course, the Thursday tip offs included Diamond Ranch. Diamond Ranch getting the win against Northview. A lot to play for both of these teams. Playoff experience leans towards the Muir Mustangs, but overall experience leans towards the Panthers. It should be an interesting one, and the hope is that you tune in for that one if you're able to. For the start of high school football playoffs. Yeah, we've made it to this point of the year. Getting to the end of October and the beginning of November, and wow. Definitely something interesting. But with that said, I'm Bryce Narvaez here in Phoenix, Arizona, actually. Gordon Commons at Arizona State. As I continue my studies for or in the field of sports journalism at the Walter Cronkite School of Mass Communication and Journalism. It's a great place to be, right in downtown Phoenix. We got the World Series coming. I think it's game 3 tomorrow from Chase Field against the Texas Rangers, Diamondbacks, and Rangers in the World Series. There's going to be a lot of people wandering about the streets of Phoenix and taking the light rail for games 3, 4, and 5 of the World Series. Definitely know a lot of my peers are going to be watching that. But yeah, just thank you for making me part of your Sunday evening. So we talk high school football playoffs. Presented by Ford. Presented by your Southern California Ford dealers. They are proud sponsor of the California Interscholastic Federation Southern Section playoffs. And with that said, we will see you Friday for the Mustangs and Panthers from Pomona, California, with an expected kickoff at 7 p.m. So once again, thank you for tuning in and learning more about this year's Division 7 playoffs with a brief rundown of the rest of the playoff brackets. because they were just released off the hot press this morning at 10. So nearing 12 hours ago, but you know what? It's fine. And yeah, I'm Bryce Narvaez. See you Friday for the opening matchup of the Division 7 playoffs.